our host, Ed Lyon. Ed, you're talking in the green room about our special guest and how amazing she is.
She's the badass warrior tax princess, as we call her by Taxmaster Network community. So we're here with Diane Gardner, who I think it was back in 2012, Diane, that we first met in person in Chicago.
2010.
2010,
wow.
Even longer ago.
And moldy.
Back then, Diane was a tax preparer, not a tax planner, an enrolled agent in a two-stoplight town called Rathdrum, Idaho. Set the scene for us, Diane. Tell us about Rathdrum and where your practice was 16 years ago.
Back then, Rathdrum had maybe 1,500 people in our town.
Okay.
We still are, about 15 miles away from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which was a little bit bigger, and about 30 miles from Spokane, Washington.
Okay.
But we were just this little teeny tiny town. We have now grown to, I think we're pushing close to 8,000 now.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. So
yeah,
you have what, 6,000 people who moved from California?
Most of them from California, Oregon, Arizona. Yeah. Yeah, okay. During COVID, we got discovered, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
And back in 2010, you were putting numbers in boxes.
I did. I girl sat there, did my work every day, and went home at night and thought that was fine. I didn't know anything better. Figured whatever the tax was owed was what was owed, and off I went.
And what happened?
A long ways. Then I started drinking the Ed Kool-Aid.
Uh-oh. But it is some tasty Kool-Aid.
And he corrupted me. And now we get to work nationwide. Have been doing that for many years with Nationwide. Ed kept telling me stop fishing in a mud puddle and go fish in a pond. And then he made me go fish in a lake. And then he made me go fish in the ocean.
And now you work nationally. So that's the easy solution when you're in a town like Rathdrum, when either from your perspective, you don't have the type of clients that you really want to work with, or if you're a business owner or just a high income individual in a town like that, you're probably not going to find a tax advisor who's going to do more than just tell you how much you owe. So the answer is you look outward and you work nationwide. And you've got clients.
Scary.
Tell me about it. Let's hear it.
I was this most amazing little introvert. I'd talk to you if you'd come up and talk to me. This day, I'm still a really good introvert, but I've learned how to talk to people. But to put myself out there, I felt like I didn't know enough. I wasn't confident in what I knew, though I'd been doing taxes forever, but still didn't feel confident enough to throw myself out there nationwide. But Ed kicked me in the butt a few times, and so I took the leap and did it. Have met some of the most amazing people because now I get to pick and choose who I work with. I don't have to take the person who walks in the front door of my office. In fact, I don't take people who walk in the front door of my office. They have to go through a vetting process to come see me. Right. The author of soon to be 21 books. I got 5 that'll be released here this spring because so it just, that changes who you are. My very first book was the very first edition of the 10 most expensive mistakes. And that was a long time ago when we first did this book.
That was almost, that was 2012 or 13 then.
So I would say right in that era.
A long time ago. So this is really fascinating to me. And let's get back to something that you had said. You talked about the confidence. You didn't think that you were ready to work nationwide. What is confidence? I think everybody has a different definition for what confidence is. To me, confidence is the story that you tell yourself about yourself. Right. So you were telling yourself that you weren't ready. Was it that you weren't ready to do tax planning, that you weren't ready to work with bigger clients, or that you weren't ready to do it via Zoom without the sort of small town walk in the door and pick up your tax form relationship that you had been used to?
I'm going to give you the very transparent story. I had this little guy in the form of my ex-husband who sat on my shoulder who said, "You're stupid. You don't know anything. Every time you open your mouth, something stupid comes out." And that's what had been programmed in my brain for all the years that we were married. So it took me quite a while before I'll use the term, found my voice. Because every time I went to do something, just doing this book was huge for me. I put my name on a book, and that was huge because then I had to give it to people. But that was a good baby step for me. When I look in hindsight, back then it felt like a huge step. But when you had that programming in your head for years and years, it takes a while to get rid of that.
Yeah, it does.
That was a big piece of it.
Sure. And anyone who says money can't buy happiness has never paid for a divorce.
It was a very painful and expensive divorce. Yeah.
But look where you are now. Look at the story that you are telling yourself now. The story is, hey, I write books. I host podcasts. I'm a local celebrity. And within my niche, I'm a celebrity. So let's talk a little bit about that. How did you make the leap from the mud puddle in Rathdrum to the great big blue ocean of the United States? That is a pretty intimidating jump, and it's a lot easier to do in theory than in practice. So what made that work for you?
Back then, we went through one of the events, and it was all about who is your target audience. Remember Dominique, really drilling down in on that back then.
Sure. This is Dominique Molina from the Institute for Certified Tax Coaches.
And so I kept saying business owners, and she kept saying, no, that's not good enough. It's got to be more than that. So I chose a couple different niches over the years that didn't work out very well. And then I sat down and I thought, who's my most favorite client of all? And it's a guy who's a roofer here in town. We love him to death. He loves us to death. It's why don't I just get more like him? Right. And so I really started niching down into the home service businesses area. And I love working with them. They're so much fun. So now I get to hang out with roofers and electricians and plumbers and HVAC guys and landscapers and restoration businesses and just those kind of people. They're down to earth. They really want the information. They're working their butts off and they're not getting hardly anything for it. So I've added profit coaching to what I do. We help them get profitable, and then that creates another problem because now they owe tax. But once I get in trouble,
you're creating a tax problem for them so that you can get paid very well to solve that problem. Yes. That's a great business model. By the way, ask any mafia goomba who sidles up to your jewelry store or your restaurant or your bar and says, "Nice business. Sure would be a shame if something happened to it." Nice 1040, Mr. Roofer. Sure would be a shame if we blew you up with an extra $500,000 of taxable profits. Yeah.
And that's not that uncommon to do, to throw that onto their bottom line by just fixing a few systems and processes and things inside their business, and then get to go through and fix the tax side of it. Right. So I got the best of both worlds because I don't do very many tax returns anymore.
You're not doing them personally yourself, no?
Yeah, I do a few, but not like I used to.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the home services market as well. This is an area where I see a lot more activity. One, on the tax side. So when you think of high-income tax clients, you're not likely to think of a roofer or an electrician. You're more likely to think of a doctor or a lawyer or someone with a PhD in financial engineering who runs a mutual fund in New York City. You're thinking white-collar, educated, professional, whereas these home services businesses, a lot of the owners don't have a traditional college degree. Maybe they have a technical degree. They have a trade school. They got certified to be a plumber.
Not even have that.
Yeah, or to be an electrician. And they ended up starting their own business. A lot of these men and women are doing better financially than the doctor and lawyer clients I work with. They're doing it quietly. They're driving pickup trucks instead of BMWs. I wonder why BMW has never made a pickup truck. I guess their market research shows that's not a likely crossover collaboration. But they are the millionaire next door. They're quietly making a lot of money. They're putting a lot of money away. They're taking great care of their families, although typically with modest needs. They're not looking to buy instant mansions and take vacations in St. Bart's. But they're also not full of themselves in the way that some clients can be. I know people who don't like working with doctors because doctor, as the joke goes, what's the difference between God and a surgeon? God doesn't think he's a surgeon. So they're willing to take direction. They don't resist. They're easier to work with because they don't assume that they know everything about taxes, and they're not going to ask ChatGPT or Grok about an S corporation and come back with challenge questions for you.
No. And I tried doctors as one of those niches and found I didn't care to work with them. You would give them advice and they would go do something else that they heard on the internet somewhere. And so it's like, okay.
So that's one reason why working with home services businesses can be so successful. The other reason is simply a real explosion of interest in those businesses. So I look at Instagram is where I get my pulse on current culture, all those pictures, all those videos. They're so pretty and so engaging, right? But in the business space, there are a lot of people who are talking about what they call boring businesses. And probably the most prominent of them is a woman named Cody Sanchez, who lives in Austin and who talks about buying boring businesses, car washes, laundromats, things like that. In fact, car washes have become really expensive to buy over the last couple of years, precisely because Cody and her cohort are talking about buying boring businesses. So you have a lot of people who are looking for the dream of owning a business, and they don't need to be solving computer problems. They're not looking to be displaced by AI. I challenge Grok to put a roof on my rental house. I need a roof.
No, you're ready for Optimus Prime to do it.
But we will see. Optimus Prime is a gleam in Elon Musk's eyes. He's not there yet. But seriously, let's see a robot plumber pull up in a van, get out of the van, walk up the steps to the house, through the front door, down into the basement, find the water shutoff valve, and do what it needs to do. Someday that'll happen, we suppose. It's not there yet. It's not there yet. So you have people who are buying and starting boring businesses, making money, and yet when they make money, they need professional help as well. So that's your niche. You still haven't told me how you made the leap nationally, how you've got companies in places like New Jersey and Florida coming to you hoping that you'll take them as clients.
I think part of that really got going when I joined the Profit First group.
Okay.
Because they are known worldwide. And so I set my parameters leads from there that turn into tax plans eventually.
Sure.
And
okay.
That has popped onto the East Coast pretty well, is the leads coming from there.
I see the Profit First book over your shoulder there. Tell me about Mike Michalowicz and the Profit First concept.
The Profit First concept says that we're going to flip the general accounting equation from sales minus expenses equals profit to sales minus profit equals expenses. So we work with our home service business clients and we help them learn how to take their profits first, how we put money away to pay their income tax, put money away for growth for their business, those types of things. And consequently, they become very successful businesses. And when they sell for a much higher multiple than your average home service business does, which creates another tax planning.
Yet another
project.
Tax planning. So you are just creating problems all over the place.
I try.
Okay. Certainly, it sounds like it's succeeding. How do clients find you? Are they finding you through other podcasts, through your podcast? What other marketing are you doing to build this tribe of businesses that work with you?
So they find me through Profit First. They find me through my own Profitable Home Services podcast. My books are out there in lots of different people's hands, and they have a very long life. I've had people call me 5 and 6, maybe even 7 years after they got their hands on one of my books, because we give them away constantly.
Sure.
And
slow readers.
yeah, slow readers, but they come to me as like, when I first got your book, I didn't qualify to work with you, but now I think I might. And so they've held on to it over the years, which really blows me away when that happens. Is, do I qualify to work with you now? Because to work with me, you have to be at least a minimum of $1 million in revenue.
Okay.
And you have to have a team. I don't want just what we call the schmuck in a truck. I want somebody who's got a team. And or she, I won't say just he or she, because we are getting some women in there now. Because those are the people that we can help grow. And we can really help them solidify their business and make it more profitable, which becomes more successful. And gives them that legacy that they want when they are ready to step away.
Do you do many live events? Do you do much live speaking?
Not as much as I did pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, I was in an airplane quite a bit, running back and forth around the country. I've hooked up with an electrical group that sounds like I'll be doing some speaking for them this summer.
Okay.
So starting to get back into that, but I really don't have the desire to be hopping on airplanes and running everywhere. The virtual part works much better for me.
Virtual is easy, and hopping on airplanes can be a grind.
Yes.
It can be a real grind. So let's shift gears a little bit. This first part of our discussion, I think, is fascinating for anybody who's marketing, tax planning, or financial services. Let's talk about some more client-oriented issues. What do these businesses typically look like when they come to you? Is it like Edvard Munch's The Scream when you look at their books?
No, their books generally are passable because they have an in-house bookkeeper or they're working with an accounting firm.
Okay. Passable.
I generally,
not great, not pristine, passable.
Yeah, just passable. I generally won't take people if they don't have one of those because I don't want to sit there and clean up quick. My days of doing that are in hindsight.
The rear view mirror.
Yes, they are gone. But what I see them working themselves to death. They work so hard and they don't have the cash in the bank to show for the amount of hard work that they do. Yeah, they can make payroll. They keep their bills paid, but that's about it. And so by just fixing a few things, we can transform that business. And now that do the planning and we get them into some retirement planning and we get them into all these other tax planning strategies, but they have to have some cash up front to do that.
Okay. So this is interesting because I've spoken on the podcast with various attorneys and accountants and financial advisors, and we typically jump straight to tax planning. You don't jump straight to tax planning.
Rarely.
Your first step is let's look at your profitability. Tax planning solves a profit problem. Solves the problem of how much of your profit are you going to give to the IRS, but you've got to maximize that profit first. And I think that is really intriguing and probably very appealing to your clients as well. I have no idea how you structure your fees, but do you tie your fees to the increased profitability, to the savings that you create on the tax side? Is there any relationship there?
There hasn't been, but not to say that it won't be going forward. We've been offering a group coaching program where they get some one-on-one time with me. And that has been working well to get them down the road to where they're starting to solidify, plug those profit leaks and starting to drop some money back down to that bottom line. And I want it to be real cash, just not paper profit, because there is a difference.
Right. Yes. If you go to Kroger's, they won't take your paper profit.
No, they won't. No. So we want real hard cash in the bank type of profit for them. And then it's time that like the phase 2 then is let's start looking at tax planning.
Okay.
Now, occasionally I'll get a lead that needs tax planning up front, but most of the time it's the other way around.
Interesting. Okay. So what is your marketing unique selling proposition? How do you distinguish yourself? Obviously, you've got a suite of services that are different from what most people in the accounting field are doing, but they're not going to know that. How do you introduce yourself? What do you tell people you do, or what do you tell people you are?
Depends on the situation. Sometimes I say I'm a recovering accountant.
Okay.
It usually makes them laugh and they want to know more. What's a recovering accountant? Other times, I'll just lead off with, I help home service business owners identify and plug their profit leaks so that we can do tax planning with them and help them pay the least amount of tax that they legally need to pay.
Wow.
Okay, that's good.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's one good direct sentence, multiple benefits, but two different good reasons why people should be working with you.
Yeah.
This is
And your average business coach teaches them to sell more. Just sell more. That's all you have to do. Sell more. Sell.
Well,
And I
there
go,
are very few problems in life that can't be solved by more sales.
And the problem, Diane, with a business coach is they are basically letting the client lead them versus you are more of a consultant that are really driving this whole thing.
And
you want to learn about the business. You want to understand what's the problem with the business and fix it. Coaches are all about, maybe try this. Not, you got to come on board. You're going to follow my method. That's the difference between a coach and someone like what you do.
And because I'm an accountant, I tie everything back to the numbers. So we start measuring things right away. Because if you can't measure it, you can't tell if you're gaining on it or not. And we put together some dashboards and we start putting together things that we can check in on, sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly, and others are quarterly. But getting those numbers to where that they're not afraid of their numbers. Probably 90% of the home business owners I've worked with are scared to death of their numbers. They won't admit it, but they are scared to death of their numbers.
Why is that?
Because they're really good at what they do. They're an amazing plumber, they're an amazing roofer, whatever that is. Nobody ever taught them the number side of their business. Nobody ever taught them how to job cost a job to see what kind of a profit margin they're getting on that job. Nobody taught them that your gross profit should be between this range and this range. Nobody taught them that you shouldn't spend more than this percentage on your operating expenses. And what's the difference between an operating expense and a cost of goods sold expense? Nobody taught them any of this stuff. So they're just flying, just blindly. I can do so many jobs a month, and that's what they do.
Yeah. And Diane, do you think that the business coaches, because I know that they probably came from a business coach first, what kind of advice? They're just looking at overall sales. They're not looking at profit margin. They're not looking at cost per acquisition, things that you need to look at, because some people will throw tons of marketing dollars and they don't even monitor what's happening with it.
Yeah. They're not looking at lifetime value of their customer.
LTV, any of that stuff.
No.
Sure.
They're not.
Let's take a step back, because I talked earlier about one of the differences between blue-collar trade business owners and white-collar professionals. And we talked about education. If you're an accountant, you get 150 credit hours of accounting and you go take your CPA exam, but nobody's teaching you how to run a profitable accounting practice. If you're a doctor, there's not a class in med school on how to run a medical practice. And I have a couple doctor clients who actually have MBAs. And the first thing they do when they learn about business is they want to get out of the business of being a doctor, out of being a day-to-day doctor. Oh, we're going to open up an ER. We're going to open up in a box clinic. But they don't have the background. I went to law school. There was no class in law school on how to run a law practice. And to take a class in accounting, I had to cross-register and take a program from the MBA program. We didn't even have an accounting class in law school, which is shocking considering how many lawyers are concerned with their bottom line, which is most of them. Same thing holds true if you go to a trade school and you learn how to be a plumber, you learn how to be a plumber, you learn how to do plumbing, but you don't learn how to run a plumbing business. And typically you're going to start out as an employee of somebody else's plumbing business, and you'll see how they work with customers and things like that. But very few employees get a chance to look at the boss's books while they're still training for their business. So there's an epidemic of business owners across America who had a great idea for a business or even a mediocre idea for a business and have no clue how to run a business. So that makes perfect sense. When you say that these business owners are afraid of their numbers, that actually makes perfect sense. It's just not their strong suit. Somebody who's been doing plumbing for 30 years can be very confident in their ability to solve plumbing problems. The story they tell themselves about their plumbing ability is great, but the story they tell themselves about being a business owner, that's going to be a very different story. So having somebody like you that they can work with, who's going to look at the numbers, who's going to demystify the numbers, who's going to give them a system, an operating system for their business, and somebody who says, hey, it's okay to make money. Profit first. Your expenses minus the profit that you need to take out of your business to pay your bills and feel good about yourself as a business owner. And then the rest of that is expenses. So let's help you get from where you are now with decent books to the goal of feeling really comfortable with your books, understanding why they're important, understanding what the numbers mean, and breathing life into those numbers. That, I think, is a really attractive proposition, and that's more than they're going to get from 98 out of 100 accountants.
I have an electrician in Connecticut who came through my Profit Blueprint boot camp that we did a couple months ago. And when he came out of the end of that 6-week course, he looked at me and he goes, for the first time in my life, I understand what somebody is saying when they're talking about gross profit and net profit and cost of goods sold. He says, I never knew what those terms meant. And he'd been running a business for several years. But
what's his business
he didn't understand them.
Yeah. So tell me what a typical business owner's business looks like after this understanding.
After this understanding, they start tracking their gross profit on their jobs. And we don't track everyone because that's too time consuming. A lot of them have softwares like Service Titan or House Call Pro or any of those kind. And it's amazing the reports you can get out of those pieces of software, which will make the job costing piece a lot easier. But a lot of times I make them do it manually because they need to know where the numbers are coming from.
Sure.
Here's what you're charging. Here's what it actually cost you. We talk about the real cost of labor. It's not the $25, $30 an hour you pay your on top of that to actually cover the cost of your labor. And we dig into that kind of stuff and their eyes just, whoa, I didn't know all that was in there. Mm-hmm. And so we get them so that they're tracking their numbers, they're tracking their sales, they're tracking their conversion rates, they're tracking the number of calls that come into their businesses, they're tracking overtime hours because they weren't tracking that before. Okay. We're tracking the number of callbacks and the stuff that they get. We're tracking just so many things like that we can track that just because we're tracking them, they start changing and becoming better to then start throwing dollars on their bottom line profit.
Oh, I like throwing dollars on the bottom line profit. That's well put. So it's in a way, it's 8th grade math class. When you take a math test in 8th grade, it's not enough just to get the answer right. You've got to be able to show your work. You've got to be able to show the calculations. Now, if you're not a math person, nobody wants to learn how to show their work. They'd rather move on to whatever class it is they like. But when you're running your own business, that's the best incentive in the world to learn how to show their work. That makes a whole lot of sense, asking them to calculate it manually so that they can really imprint in their head what they're doing and why it is so important.
And they're very proud of themselves when they come back like to the next meeting or whatever, and they have some numbers to share with me. And you can just see that they feel empowered now. They can start leading their teams. Before they manage with a fire hose. they're just putting out fires all day long. All they just put out fires. But once we can get them to start understanding their numbers and to start taking action with their numbers, now they don't have to have that fire hose in their hand all the time, because they start empowering their team members to do what they need them to do. And they start leading. We start putting on that CEO hat. They start leading. And now they have space. They have some space. They can think. They can lead. They can actually go home and be present with their families.
Nice.
That's very nice.
So it's not just a more profitable business. It becomes more of that platonic ideal of a lifestyle business, a business that supports your lifestyle rather than a business that consumes your entire life.
Yeah. And they fall in love with their business again, where they hate their business.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the hiring process is something you go over with them too. Are you hiring the right people? Because hiring people to find them to get the right workers, and the assumption, it might take a few more times to find that right person. Don't keep somebody who's taking business, not doing the job for you.
And how do we keep the good team members that they have so that you're treating them well and they don't jump ship for another 50 cents an hour somewhere? So how do we build that culture so we keep those guys?
And
because the cost to replace is thousands and thousands of dollars to replace that good worker.
And that's another hidden challenge that we have in America for people moving up in their career, whether it's in corporate America or whether it is running a business. Nobody is taught how to manage people. And the bigger your organization gets, the more challenging it is to manage all of those people until you get big enough that you can bring in someone who's good at it and whose job is to manage people. But you have institutions like small business, large companies, the military, where as you rise, you're expected to start managing people. You're expected to take this responsibility at law firms, for example. Again, in law school, there is no class on how to manage associates.
Not in accounting school either.
No, but not with law firms. As you move up, you become a partner, and eventually somebody is managing the entire company, and it's usually an attorney who has no specific training in doing it. Maybe they're good at it, maybe they're not at it, and we all know people who work for companies where the boss really just doesn't understand how to be a boss and isn't a very good boss, isn't a very effective boss, and has all these problems because they're not doing that. So when you can bring this all-around perspective to a business owner, I think that's really even more valuable than just bringing a tax strategy. I look at managing teams myself. Company that I ever managed myself had 5 people, and 3 of them were partners. So that's not a skill set I have. I work now mainly as an independent contractor. I'm not managing a team of people below me. And frankly, it wouldn't be the highest and best use of my time. It wouldn't be something that I would enjoy. I kind of like being a lone wolf, but I have that luxury of being able to do that. All right, so we talk about taxes on the Lyon Share podcast. We're 35 minutes into the interview. Let's finally get to some taxes. Once you have your business owners primed and the money spigot is just shooting money out every day, Monday through Friday. Oh my God, look at all of this cash coming out of this business. What am I going to do with it? What are your favorite go-to strategies to help the business owners keep as much of that money as possible out of the IRS's hands?
I'm going to say that depends. I tend to find that in the home services business industry, most of them are not real big fans or feel real comfortable with things to do with putting money in the market. They tend to want to buy rental properties and things like that.
Okay.
And so we have some strategies.
Assets they can control, not paper assets that are run out of some skyscraper in New York.
Yeah. They want to be able to see it, touch it, grow it. And I've got a few of them that are doing amazingly well over in that area. But then we can bring strategies that, always keeping in mind, most of them they can touch, they can see, they can feel it. We've done several of the captive insurance plans, that one is a stretch in their heads for them because they can't see it. And so that one sometimes takes a little bit of time for it to grow on them, and they realize that not only does it save them money, but it shores up their business and makes it strong. An example I have is a roofing company in Pennsylvania that their general manager passed away, I won't say suddenly, but somewhat suddenly on them. And all of a sudden they had this massive hole in their business, their big business.
Okay.
And through their captive, we were able to place a claim, which gave them some operating capital to get another guy hired and limp them through until this other guy was hired and up to speed.
Okay.
So they would have had a really tough year had they not had their captive in place.
Okay.
So that's just one example of how it actually helped them on the other side. We like the equipment leasing strategy because here again, that's in their world. They feel comfortable with it. Done a little bit on the solar battery strategy because here again, they can touch it. They can get on an airplane and they can go see it and touch it. So I have to be careful when I'm bringing strategies that it's those kinds of strategies more so than some of the ones, Ed, that you've talked about over the years that they look at me and just our eyes glaze over.
Yeah.
Okay, don't go that direction. Stay more this other side.
Are you working a lot of business sales?
I get probably 1 or 2 a year.
Okay.
Not huge because these guys now, because we're fixing, they start going back into growth mode again.
Okay. When you love your business, you're not in any hurry to sell it.
No, it's not like your house. Once you've done all the repairs and you've repainted and you've recarpeted and stuff, it's like, maybe I like my house now and I think I'll stay put for a little while.
Yeah. No need to move. Okay.
Yeah.
This has been an awesome conversation because it's gone in some different directions. The profit first focus and the idea of starting out as a small town tax preparer, taking anyone who brings their W-2s in one mud puddle town north of Coeur d'Alene to a national practice. And you're probably working with people in what, 25, 30, 35 states?
At least 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are a nationally recognized author and expert in these businesses, and you did it by telling yourself a better story. There's a whole separate podcast episode talking about confidence. And I'm actually thinking of a couple of other people who I could get in and we could have a real nice roundtable discussion on confidence starting out in the tax field. So thanks so much for your time today, and tell us how we can get in touch with you.
The best way to get in touch with me is go out to www.taxcoachforyou.com, and that's taxcoach, the number 4, YOU.com. And out there, you can grab copies of a few of my books. Come spring, we'll have the rest of the next newest batch out there, but there's always copies of books that we love to give away. I do what we call a profit impact call. So once somebody has read my book, or if they found us through a Facebook ad or something like that, they've gone through our trainings, then we do a profit impact call, and we can identify ways that profit and cash is leaking out of their business, and they can decide if they want to work with us and let us fix the profit and the tax problems for them.
And are you making a ton more money than that ex-husband?
Oh, yeah.
All right. That is the best part of all. All right. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
all
thanks for having me, guys.
We appreciate it. All right. That was a special simulcast Neil Hayes Show on the Lyon Share Podcast.